Welcome to our information session. I'm Alison Harvey, and I'm the program manager. And my job is to ensure that you, if you are a participant and you do choose to join us, that you're well prepared and that you have a terrific time at our program, which will be on campus this year. We're so excited to welcome people back to campus. If you like what you hear today, I encourage you to apply if you haven't already. Our deadline is May 6th, but we do anticipate a waiting list and we accept applicants on a rolling basis. So the sooner you get your application in, the better. And now I'd like to introduce my three friends and HDS, and they are also HDS MDiv graduates, Charlie Hallisey, John Brown, and Laura Tuach. Charlie is the Handamada Senior Lecturer on Buddhist Literatures, and this semester is teaching Intro to Buddhist Narrative and Story Literature and Theravada Buddhism. John is practitioner in residence in religion, business ethics, and economic order here at HDS, as well as the Harvard Business School. This semester, he's teaching ethical discernment in business contexts. And Laura Tuach is our Assistant Dean for Ministry Services and Field Education. She teaches in the areas of meaning making, leadership, and innovation. So now I'd like to turn it over to Charlie, and John and Laura who will provide the overview, and then we'll follow by Q&A. Charlie.
Thank you very much, Alison. So welcome to all of you. I just want to take a few minutes to tell you about this year's program of Making Change. I'm only going to take a few minutes to try to allow as much time as possible for you to ask questions. So Making Change is part of the professional and lifelong learning program at Harvard Divinity School, and thus it's part of the common life of Harvard Divinity School. One of the things that you might say that Harvard HDS is oriented to all the time is conversations, attempts to understand the place of religion in our lives, and so not only to understand, but sometimes to appreciate this place and to further it. One of the things that we may assume beginning, just part of, say, conventional ideas, cultural ideas we have, is something like what Whitehead said, that religion is what a person does with her own solitariness. We're beginning in a very different place with the insight of the Buddhas, when he said that friendship is the whole of the life well lived. We want to spend the 4 days together in June thinking about, reflecting together about what the Buddha could have possibly meant when he said that friendship is the whole of a life well lived. We're going to begin with not how people make friends with people that are like them, but in many ways to focus on the ability of humans to make friends with people that they probably shouldn't be making friends with. That is, people who make friends across the boundaries of in conditions of violence, as we'll do when we look at two men who made friends as part within the conflict in Israel and Palestine. How it is that people make friends across religious boundaries, and also how it is that people make friends across the boundaries of time, that it's possible for us to think about people in the past as being friends to us today. The theme of the program of friendship and the practices that we're going to do every day in really a key way that they rhyme with each other. We're going to be hearing people talk about friendship, but we're going to be reflecting on friendship in the company of friends. Each day, there'll be presentations from faculty leaders, all from Harvard Divinity School or associated with Harvard Divinity School. Then grouped discussions of people reflecting on what they have heard, extending it, allowing it to go further. Then there'll be a practice that comes from the Jewish tradition of Havruta, which literally means reading together with friends. We want to read with friends to allow a friend to help us to overcome our own limitations, to see things that we wouldn't be able to see otherwise. And then finally, there'll be practices of what we call meaning making, which will be to integrate in each other's lives the kinds of insights and lessons that that have emerged for each of us and together with each other during the day. In short, what we could say is that the theme of this year's Making Change workshop of friendship and the life well lived is to help us to become more of what we already are, and that to see that our abilities at friendship are a place where we can begin to make change, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of the people close to us, and even further to the lives of people around us and the world at large. So thank you for joining us for this information session. And with that, let me turn it over to my friend and co-director, John Brown.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Allison. Thank you especially to the participants who are joining us from all over. As Charlie indicated, our hope this year is for our participants to engage not just with the learnings that come from the teaching platforms themselves, some of which will be in front of the classroom, some of which will be from the readings that you partake in, but also a fair amount will come from each other, from the sessions and opportunities you will have to engage about the readings, about the text, through the meaning making session that Charlie just referenced, and also through Havruta. Our goal is for you to take away a deepened appreciation for the various literatures and texts, some ancient, some more modern, and to learn from the offerings that they provide about the roots of friendship, the context of friendships, and also, we would hope, the application of friendship. We believe that this will be an exciting 4.5 days where you will have a chance to not only stretch your sense of belonging to one another, but also in understanding the trajectory of how friendship is expressed in various traditions and in various parts, indeed, of our world. With that brief overview, I'd like to pass it along to my colleague and friend, Laura Tuach, who will take you through a little bit of a journey on the subject of making meaning. Thank you. Laura?
Thank you, John, and thank you, Alison and Charlie, and welcome to all of you who are participating today. It's good to see some familiar names pop up on our screens, and we look forward to seeing you on campus, hopefully this June. Just briefly, as the introduction said, my name is Laura Tuach, and I'm the Assistant Dean for Ministry Studies at Harvard Divinity School. And in addition to our morning grounding sessions, the rich lectures, class discussions, and paired Havruta work, each day, participants will gather together in small groups, which we call meaning making small groups. These groups are intentionally intimate and small, and it's designed for you to get to know a subset of the participants more deeply. You travel with each of them across the week, so those groups remain the same. And as John said, and Charlie, it's a chance and an opportunity for you to start to integrate the day's material and the interactions that you have during the day, and to make meaning of it as it relates to your own lives, as it relates to your own friendships, or even those you desire. So it's designed for you to make deeper connections and explore what it means to make friendships across difference, across religious difference, and perhaps with those that you wouldn't normally make friends with. So we look forward to having you, and I'm going to turn it back over to Alison, who I believe is going to open it up for us to have questions, or to Charlie.
So what are the types of people who typically attend our programs? And we usually have four categories or four types of people. We have mid-level to senior level professionals who are seeking to be more effective leaders, leading with more purpose. We have professionals who are potentially looking to make some type of change, and they're in an exploration experience and are intrigued by what we have to offer here at the Divinity School. We have ministers who are seeking respite and to re-energize. And we have the curious learner. And these could be somebody at just about any age who's interested in. Typically, we ask that participants have at least 10 years of work experience to be accepted. But beyond that, they're curious lifelong learners. I have a question here. Do we have to write essays for this program? Well, there's an essay that's required in the application. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but it's around the application process, which you submit your application online. You can find it on our webpage. We collect some information about you, demographic information, but we also, the main piece is an essay question where we're asking you, what do you have to offer the cohort? And what are you hoping to get from the cohort? It's really a 50-50 arrangement, and you're going to be giving and you're going to be receiving. And that's what the four of us will be reviewing your application in light of to determine whether you'd be a good fit for the program.
I might add to that, that unlike, say, a class in a university course where people are writing essays as a part of a way of engaging material and also for evaluation purposes, here, the kinds of discussions that we will be having, I think that almost everyone's experience will be, I don't know, together we came up with this thought, and I don't know where it came from. It was just one person said something, someone else said something else, someone else reacted to that, and we got larger and larger. I think that what happens to many people who participate in the Making Change programs is that they end up journaling quite a lot as a way of trying to hold on to those kinds of ideas that emerge from the discussion amongst friends in the company of friends, in which other people enlarge themselves. And so the writing essays may be something that you're doing for yourself in journaling. And probably quite often, I think that you'll discover other ideas that you want to share with people the next day.
Thank you, Charlie. We have a question here. What can we do to be well prepared before arriving? Studying or reading assignments? Oh, yes, you will have work to do. Starting in the middle of April, we'll be providing you the link to our course site, which is in an application called Canvas. So you'll be receiving an invitation to join. And in there, you'll see the syllabus with the lecture descriptions, the assignments for reading. There will be pre-reading that you need to do, as well as study questions to be thinking as you're going through those readings. And most significantly, you'll be receiving a book in the mail from us. The name of it is A Paragon by Colum McCann. This is important for you to be have read this book before you arrive on campus. So it will be the foundation to the conversation lecture on Monday. And we'll be sending that to you. That's included in the price of the program. And so I heavily encourage you to not wait until you get here to do any of the readings, because the days go very quickly and it's assumed that you've done the homework prior to your arrival. I don't know if anyone would like to add anything more, any other comments about preparation.
Just to add about the novel A Paragon, just that it is a work of fiction that's based on a true story that is about two men who came together out of a shared or common tragedy of having children died during the violence in Israel and Palestine. One is an Israeli Jew, the other was a Palestinian father. And so that their friendship together is what will kick us off. So it's really important for us for everyone to have read the novel before you come. And that we're anticipating that the author of the novel will be joining us, and also a peace activist from Israel, David Shulman, to join us in the discussion of the significance of the book.
That discussion also will be moderated by David Hempton, the Dean of Harvard Divinity School, who is himself from Ireland and is quite familiar with the difficulties and challenges that can occur in the company of friends and others with opposite points of view politically and otherwise. And we think it will be a fascinating conversation. And anyone who's heard or read or watched David Hempton knows that he is extremely engaging. And we believe the same is true for Colum McCann, the author of the book.
Thank you, John. A question about how many applicants will you accept into the overall cohort? I would I'm thinking at this point, maybe 28 to 32. It'll also be broken up into smaller groups during the program, as we mentioned, for the meaning making and the Havruta. So thinking in that range. Share more about the readings, what books or authors. So we touch base on a Paragon by Colin McCann. There will also be, the readings will be available in the course syllabus, linked to the course syllabus, and those will link out to PDF files, so they'll be available for you. But you can anticipate a Paragon's 450 pages, and you can anticipate probably another 50 to 75 pages of reading to go along with that. Maybe a couple of videos and audio pieces for you to listen to. We're still pulling those all together now, but as I said, you should have those read. You don't have to remember everything about them when you arrive, but suggest you make notes. And so when we're back in lecturing and talking about those particular topics, you're refreshed and ready for conversation.
But
One other word about the readings. Some of the readings are the exact opposite of Colin McCann's. Instead of being 450 pages, they are 1 or 2 pages. Meditations, for example, there will be a couple from Howard Thurman, former Dean of Chapel at Boston University. There will be a reading from Karen King's book, The Gospel of Mary of Magdala. And Karen King, Professor Karen King, will be lecturing on her friendship with the Gospel of Mary of Magdala, a different kind of friendship, but as she will explain in her lecture, one that's evolved over several decades. So the readings are very much aligned with the theme that Charlie has described about friendship, as well as the individual lectures that you as participants and our guests will attend.
just to add, the readings will be connecting to materials from the Christian, Buddhist, Jewish, and also comparative perspectives as well.
Sorry, there's a question here. Charlie, what did you have in mind by choosing this particular focus for this year's class? What's so important about friendship right now?
I would say I'm an American, and I'm aware of the problems that we have publicly of the divisions that we feel immediately in front of us, but between oftentimes people close at hand, but just nationally as well. But it was also something of, for me, seeing that line of the Buddhas of a discussion that the Buddha had with one of his closest disciples, where he affirmed to the disciple that what he was teaching was always about friendship, and that friendship was the whole of life well lived. And I myself found it so thought-provoking and generative to think about what he possibly could have meant, that I began to share it with John, and the two of us began to say, oh, we want to share it with other people. And that's how the Making Change program really emerged this year.
And to sort of build on that, we use the basis for what you see on the schedule during the 4.5 days to ask not just from a single perspective, but to widen the lens of the interrogation process. So it's not just one tradition or one region of the country. And we think the book, A Paragon, will help to give a deeper sense of the nuances that sometimes go into friendships, especially when from all outward looking perspectives, it's a friendship, it's a relationship, it's a union of ideas that fundamentally should not take place. And what can we take away from that process? And then number two, I think it's important for us to also emphasize something that Alison suggested and mentioned at the top of our discussion, which is that we are asking that our participants come with open minds and hearts, and that they would be willing to ask one another, along with our professors, questions about the text. in anticipation that it will be shared learning, shared development, and not just a 4.5-day period in which all of the lecturing, all of the teaching takes place from the front of the classroom. So the friendship that we hope to teach about is one that we hope will actually be practiced during the 4.5 days and indeed last a lot longer than after June 9th.
What do we cover in the program fee is $4,800, and that covers all the materials, the lectures, all the sessions and all meals with the exception of one. On Wednesday evening, we let you loose to go through the greater Boston, Cambridge area to explore as you wish. So you have that evening off, but we'll start on Sunday afternoon. There will be refreshments when you arrive. That's at 2 p.m. And followed by tours of the campus, and then introductions. We'll have a reception at 5 o'clock at the Dean's house, Jewett House, and have a dinner there. And we'll be wrapping up around 6:30 on Sunday evenings to give you a chance to get your hotels wherever you're staying and get settled. We have rates negotiated with several hotels nearby within 1 mile of our campus. And when you're accepted, we'll provide that information to you, and you can make your arrangements. If you were accepted in our 2020 program, you're automatically accepted into our 2022 program. And it'll be up to you to decide whether you want to attend, and then we'll give you access to the training and send you your invoice, give you access to the Canvas site, and you can start getting ready.
There's a question about, will there be worship experiences with any of the faith traditions with which we are engaging? And so part of the schedule for each day is what we're calling grounding exercises. They're not the same thing as a worship practice, but a grounding exercise that will be designed to turn our minds together towards some of the themes that we'll be working, reflecting on and discussing together, but also to open them up to the ways that they have been kind of grounded within the religious traditions that we're talking about as well. There was one question about if you applied in 2019, are you accepted? Does that carry over to now as well?
2019, no, but the 2020 cohort, yes.
Another thing that's built into the program schedule is there'll be a collective viewing of a movie together, the classic Japanese movie by Kurosawa, Ikiru. And it will raise a question for us of how it is that one becomes kind of prompted to engage on behalf of other people that you don't know. So that in this way that we might say, or the question of who is my neighbor and who is my friend, kind of lead into each other.
One addendum to Byron Thomas's question about what did we have in mind in choosing this particular focus this year. I'd like to add, Byron, that we wanted to deepen the participants' engagement with texts themselves through the guidance of the scholars here at HDS. That was very much a part of our collective thinking, that the window we thought into that process of engaging with the text was not necessarily through Greek or Hebrew or language, but through an issue and a topic that had contemporary relevance within the context of what we have seen in this first quarter of the 21st century. So number one, we think and believe sincerely, without any boast intended, that there's a great deal of rich resources at Harvard Divinity School, much of which has been generated by the school's faculty over its 200+ year history. And we wanted to tap into that in ways that we would hope and quite honestly pray that participants would be able to take away materials that they could apply in their respective domains and lives. And then secondly, by opening that lens, that aperture a little bit wider, we hope that the the inquiry, the curiosity that occurs during those 4.5 days would last beyond the last day, that there would be a journey towards broadening individual and perhaps even collective understanding of this issue of friendship and its importance in this world, not just in the United States.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I look forward to seeing your application. If you haven't already applied, some of you attending are planning to attend, and we really look forward to welcoming you on campus. So please feel free to reach out to me directly for any questions or concerns. And thank you very much. Thank you, John. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Alison, and thank you to the participants for joining us. And we hope to see you soon.